Hello everybody and welcome along to my yearly review of all the pay-per-views 2020 edition. Last night we had TLC, I'll get onto it in a bit, but we'll start off with the first pay-per-view of the year, which was very standard. I'm not including NXT takeovers, by the way, that is a separate video. We'll start off with the Royal Rumble, which was on January the 26th. It lasted 4 hours and 6 minutes. And I'll just quickly go through the kickoff show with Shorty G Sheamus. That wasn't actually a bad match to kick off the year for pay-per-view matches. And then we had Andrade against, I think it was Humberto Carrillo for the US belt, and that was meh. That wasn't a good match. But then the actual show started, and we had a falls count anywhere between Roman Reigns and King Corbin. And honestly, I've got to say this. Roman Reigns, King Corbin, this was a very good match. But the finish was very predicted, and purely on that match can only get a 7 out of 10 from me. It was a good match, don't get me wrong. Roman Reigns did win with a spear. Then you had a primo with Owens and Joe and Fire and Desire. Then you had the 2020 Women's Royal Rumble match. And this, it wasn't bad, but it also wasn't great, the Women's Royal Rumble. Charlotte really shouldn't have won this. I reckon Shayna should have. But Charlotte won. It's a Royal Rumble. Basic, 8 out of 10. Bayley against Lacey Evans for the SmackDown Women's title was then next. And this wasn't good. This really wasn't good. Bayley, we all know how good Bayley is. We all know how good Lacey Evans is. But this, Lacey Evans went for a moonsault. Bayley got the knees up and then rolled Lacey Evans up, held the tights for the 1, 2, 3, and Bayley walked out of walked out of Houston with the SmackDown Women's title. Next it was Daniel Bryan against the Fiend Bray Wyatt. What a match! Strap match, Universal title. That was incredible. I can't even say any more, but that was a 10. Asuka against Becky Lynch. This was a 23-minute and 12-second match, and Asuka absolutely, she deserved this match. This was incredible to watch. Asuka and Becky Lynch. So that is, again, another 10 out of 10. And then you've got the 2020 Men's Royal Rumble, which MVP returned, Keith Lee entered, Lesnar got eliminated, Edge returned, Riddle entered, and then Roman, Edge, Orton, and McIntyre were the final 4. But overall, I can say the Royal Rumble got a solid 8 out of 10. Moving on to the second WWE pay-per-view of the year, and this was on February the 27th, 2020, and this show went on for 3 hours, 22 and 20 seconds, and this was WWE Super Showdown. So it started off with a shitty 2-way trophy when R-Truth beat Lashley 12 minutes and 3. Truth then beat Andrade 7 minutes and 10. Truth beat Eric Rowan through disqualification. That was 4 minutes and 49. Styles put away Truth in 4 minutes 31. Styles and Undertaker went on for 12 minutes 45 just because Undertaker took 6 minutes to get to the ring. And then New Day spoke. Miz, I can't even say how long that match was on, but Miz and Morrison did beat the New Day, obviously, for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Angel Garza against Humberto Carrillo was 13 minutes and 32. That was basically just a breakout match for Garza. Seth and Murphy retained the Raw Tag Team titles against the Street Profits. That was 17 minutes and 8 seconds. Mansoor against Dolph Ziggler. That was a very good match, actually, for Mansoor. 70 minutes and 29 seconds. Ricochet against Brock Lesnar, 8 minutes and 35. Really? 22 minutes and 26 seconds was at King Corbin against Roman Reigns in a steel cage. That was a very good match. Naomi against Bayley was 70 minutes and 11. And Goldberg against The Fiend for the Universal title was 14 minutes and 36 seconds. I didn't particularly like this pay-per-view event, and that's the only reason why I can give this pay-per-view... Yes. Sorry. Super Showdown for me can only get a 6. 6. Next up, I'm moving on to potentially the worst pay-per-view of the year. But it started very well. Like, the kickoff show was a very, really... It was the Viking Raiders against Ryder and Hawkins. Like, that's a kickoff match. Of course the Raiders were going to win that. But Daniel Bryan, Drew Gulak, an amazing technical match, 19 minutes. Andrade against Humberto Carrillo for the US title, 17 minutes and 26 seconds. The Elimination Chamber for the SmackDown Tag Team titles was only 48 minutes. I thought that could have been actually shorter. 30 minutes for Aleister Black against AJ Styles. What a match. What a match. Can't deny that. Street Profits against Rollins and Murphy for the Raw Tag Team titles. 26 minutes and 8 seconds. Strowman against Cesaro, Nakamura and Zayn. 17 minutes. And then the Elimination Chamber for the Raw Women's title #1 contender. And that was 32 minutes and 32 seconds. But overall, the Elimination Chamber, apart from having 2 good matches, it was still absolutely diabolical. Maybe had a better kickoff show and we could have seen some. The last Elimination Chamber match was shit. So that means for all, it's only going to get a 6 out of 10. Now moving on to WrestleMania 36 Night 1. And this kicked off with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross against the Kabuki Warriors for the women's tag titles. And Alexa and Nikki won the belts after 19 minutes and 49 seconds. King Corbin against Elias. Elias beat King Corbin in 14 minutes and 27 seconds. Shayna Baszler against Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's title. Becky retained in 14 minutes and 5 seconds. 12 minutes and 22 for Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn. Good match. Kofi Kingston against Jimmy Uso against John Morrison for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Seth Rollins against KO. Normal match, 13 minutes and 35. No disqualification, however, 7 minutes 54. Braun Strowman against Goldberg, 7 minutes, and then the Boneyard match, 23 minutes. Now this is gonna shock you, but WrestleMania Night 1 was good. So 36. Night 1 gets a 9 out of 10. Very good pay-per-view. Moving on to WrestleMania 36 Night 2. And this kicked off with a massive and a great match. Charlotte against Rhea for the NXT Women's title. Then we had Aleister Black against Bobby Lashley. Dolph Ziggler against Otis. Edge against Randy Orton, which wasn't good. Like, really wasn't good. Theory and Garza against Street Profits for the Raw Tag titles. Not good at all. Five-way elimination match was good. Firefly Funhouse match was good. However, I didn't really get it. And McIntyre against Lesnar. Well, that was done in seconds. But honestly, you can't mark it down. It is WrestleMania. And considering they had to do it in the Performance Center, I'm going to give this, the Night 2, a 7 out of 10. I don't think it was good enough. Now moving on to Money in the Bank, potentially the shittest pay-per-view this year. However, kickoff show was Jeff Hardy and Cesaro. That shouldn't have been on the kickoff show. The SmackDown Tag Team Title Fatal 4-Way match was a good match to kick off the show. R-Truth against Bobby Lashley should not have been on the bloody main show, should it? Bayley against Tamina was alright, I guess. Bray Wyatt against Braun Strowman was meh. Seth against Drew was amazing. And then the Money in the Bank ladder match was meh. But overall, like, it's not even going to come down to this, but Money in the Bank can only get from me a 4 out of 10, because that just wasn't a good enough show. Moving on to Backlash, which was on June the 14th, 2020, 3 hours and 38 minutes this went on for. And the kickoff show was Andrade defending the US belt against Apollo Crews, and he retained. You had Alexa and Nikki against the Iconics against Sasha and Bayley. Jeff Hardy against Sheamus. Nia Jackson Asuka, which ended in a double count out. Miz and Morrison against Strowman for the Universal title in a 2-on-1 handicap. Bobby Lashley against Drew McIntyre, which was another good match. And then you had Orton against Edge, which wasn't the greatest wrestling match ever, I'm sorry. But Backlash, I thought it was a very fun show. Apart from the count out, I'm going to say it was a 7 out of 10. Decent. Now we have a horror show at Extreme Rules. This was on July the 19th, 2020, and it was 2 hours and 31 minutes and 53 seconds. So the kickoff show was Kevin Owens against Murphy. It was alright. New Day against Cesaro and Nakamura. What a match. What a start. That was an amazing tables match. Nikki Cross against Bayley. It was so comfortable, this, for Bayley. Like, Nikki had, I know that Sasha got involved, but Bayley walked that. And then we had MVP declared himself as the new US champion because there was no Apollo Crews. Seth Rollins against Rey Mysterio's eye for an eye match. Asuka against Sasha Banks, which was good until the finish. Dolph Ziggler against Drew McIntyre. I can't stand Dolph against Drew. This one fight just didn't live up to its potential, so for that reason, the horror show at Extreme this is gonna sound mad, but it's the first decimal out of 10. It's going to be 8.5 for the horror show at Extreme Rules. Moving on to SummerSlam, you'll never see it coming. This was on August the 23rd, 2020, and this went on for 2 hours and 58 minutes. If you work it out, 2:58 a.m. So the kickoff show was MVP against Apollo Crews for the US title. Crews retained. And then we had Bayley against Asuka for the SmackDown Women's title. Bayley retained. Street Profits against Andrade and Garza. Street Profits retained. Mandy Rose against Sonya Deville. Loser leaves WWE match. Mandy Rose won. Dominic against Seth Rollins in a street fight. Seth Rollins won. Sasha Banks against Asuka for the Raw Women's title. Asuka won. McIntyre against Orton for the WWE Championship. Drew McIntyre retained. Braun Strowman against The Fiend for the Universal title. The Fiend won. Roman Reigns returned to wreck everyone. Now this is up there for one of the best pay-per-views of the year. And that's why you can't mark it down. It has got to be in the 9s. It's going to be a 9.2 out of 10 for SummerSlam. You'll never. But here's a pay-per-view I absolutely loved. August the 30th, 2020. 2 hours and 29 minutes this went on for. But what a pay-per-view. Apollo Crews, Bobby Lashley was good. Big E against Sheamus was good. The kickoff show match was good between the Riot Squad and the Iconics. Who else was good? Riddle against Corbin was good. Shayna and Nia against Sasha and Bayley were good. Keith Lee, Randy Orton was a bit short, but it was still good. Rey Mysterio and Dominic against Seth and Murphy, that was a good match. Wyatt against Strowman against Reigns, that was amazing when the ring broke. That is why I can't mark it down. But Payback, you've outdone yourself. Massive pay-per-view, huge result. It gets a 9.7 out of 10. It was unreal. The only thing I would have liked is if Sasha and Bayley lost on SmackDown. Next up we have Clash of Champions Gold Rush. This was on September the 27th. And this went on for 2 hours and 57 minutes. The kickoff show match was the Lucha House Party against Cesaro and Nakamura. And that was a good match to kick off the show before a match of the year contender. AJ Styles against Sami Zayn against Jeff Hardy in a triple threat ladder match now. That was incredible. What else was incredible? Zelina Vega, Asuka, nah, wasn't up to it. Apollo Crews, Bobby Lashley, I wasn't up to that one as well. Garza and Street Profits goes up on me. Goes up, because I was falling asleep at this point. Bailey and Asuka, I don't know why, but then Sasha returned, I was up, definitely. Orton McIntyre, I think I fell asleep during this match, which was annoying. But I watched the end of it, it was good. And then Uso against Roman Reigns. But I didn't like Clash of Champions this year. I don't know what it was, but something didn't click on. I'll be doing my matches of the year soon. And obviously, that Clash of Champions, I'm really sorry. It's going to get a 6.1 out of 10. Moving on to one of the best pay-per-views of the year. And this was on October 25th. And it went on for 2 hours and 53 minutes. And this was a Hell in a Cell. Reigns, sorry, what was the kickoff show? R-Truth did Drew Gulak. 24/7 title. Kickoff, ugh, my God. But Reigns against Uso now barely happened in this match, apart from Reigns brutalising Uso. But Jeff Hardy Elias had to bring it down a bit. Then you had Otis against Miz. Tucker turned on Otis, finally. Bailey against Sasha, what a match. Bobby Lashley against Slapjack, really? It was still good. And McIntyre and Orton. So you can't knock down Hell in a Cell. It's not going to be in the 9s, but it still was a really good pay-per-view. And that is why the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view for this year it's almost in the 9s. It's going to get an 8.7 out of 10. It was a very solid pay-per-view. On to Survivor Series Best of the Best. So, the kickoff show was a over-the-top rope battle royal, which The Miz won. And then we had Raw beat SmackDown in the Men's Survivor Series elimination match. We also had the New Day losing to the Street Profits as 1-1. Sami Zayn lost to Bobby Lashley 2-1 Raw. 2-2 with Oscar equalising. Technically, it ended 3-3. I've just realised. Raw won the women's match. Roman beat Drew. Survivor Series was alright. If Raw hadn't swiped the plate of SmackDown, then this would have been up there. But it's only going to get like a full-on 7 out of 10. And now we move in to last night, and what a show. December the 20th, went on for 2 hours and 59 minutes. I haven't even had a look of how long the matches went on for, but let's have a look now. McIntyre and Styles was 38 minutes and 14 seconds. What a match. Starting off with the kickoff show. What was the kickoff show again? It was Otis, Chad Gable, Daniel Bryan and Big E against Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura, Cesaro and King Corbin. And the faces won, which very predictable. But McIntyre Styles got that right. Yes, got that prediction right. Then Miz cashed in. I didn't actually know you could cash in under Triple Threat TLC rules, but apparently you could. Miz almost won the WWE title. Next up was Sasha against Carmella. This match had me up and down on the floor. Oh. But it was good, and Sasha retained. Predicted 2 from 2. 3 from 3 with the New Day and the Hurt Business. Hurt Business won. What did I predict? Charlotte would return. Charlotte returned and won with Asuka. Roman Reigns against Kevin Owens was a very brutal TLC match, but it was very good. In fact, Roman, he did it. And then the Inferno match. I can't actually process what I saw. But The Fiend against Randy Orton. 24 minutes and 30 seconds before Randy Orton set The Fiend a full ablaze. It wasn't The Fiend. Come on, it was definitely... When it went into a replay, it definitely was. The Fiend rolled out and there was a mannequin in the ring. There was no way that was The Fiend Bray Wyatt. I'm just excited to see what happens on Raw. But overall, there's nothing that is going to beat TLC this year. It is smack down in the middle. 10 out of 10. TLC takes it, ladies and gentlemen. And it was well earned. This year has been really meh for pay-per-views. But now I am going to go to my top 10 matches of the year. So I'm going to pick a match from every pay-per-view that I consider being a match of the year contender. And the first one from the Royal Rumble, I'm going to go with Becky Lynch against Asuka. Now, Becky Lynch against Asuka was a good match. The finish was meh. I feel like the finish could have been better. But who cares? Anyway, the Super Showdown pay-per-view was tough to pick a best match. But if I'm going to have to pick any, I actually want to say the match of the year contender here is Mansoor against Dolph Ziggler. For me, I thought that was a very good match when I watched it. So Mansoor versus Dolph Ziggler gets it for Super Showdown. Next was Elimination Chamber, and this is very easy, very simple. This was AJ Styles. So AJ Styles versus Aleister Black. I want to pick a fight with you. No DQ. WrestleMania 36 Night 1. I think this is very predictable. No one is going to disagree with me this, but this is AJ Styles versus Undertaker. Boneyard match. It was Taker's final match. WrestleMania 36 Night 2, there was no good matches, but it's gotta be Charlotte against Rhea. So that gets it for me, Rhea. Charlotte against Rhea. In the Money in the Bank, everyone can predict what this match is going to be. It is obviously Drew versus Seth. Backlash. Personally, I think there was a better match than the main event. And that is why I reckon the best match on this show was actually Alexa and Nikki. So Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus Sasha Banks and Bayley versus the Iconics. And that was a very decent match. Horror Show Extreme Rules, this is very easy to say a best match, and this was obviously Seth against Ray. So Seth versus Ray. Eye for an eye. SummerSlam You'll Never See It Coming was Dominic against Ray, the street fight. I mean, Dominic against Seth, not Ray. That would be amazing. Oh my god. SummerSlam. WrestleMania, please, WWE. So for the third time bloody Seth features. There's no doubt what the bloody thing he is here. It's Roman versus Braun. Versus The Fiend. Clash of Champions, there wasn't in particular a good match. Oh no, yeah there was. AJ versus Sammy. Versus Jeff. Hell in a Cell. Oh, this is hard, but it's gotta be Sasha versus Bayley. Survivor Series, this is very easy. This is Oscar against Sasha. It was very short, but it was very good. So for the third time Sasha features. And last night, what was match of the night? It's so hard. There were so many good matches on this show. But the match I'm going to have to go with, you might disagree, but I think Reigns and Owens. Roman versus KO. And I'm just going to break them down. I don't think it was Mansoor against Ziggler. I don't think it was that. I don't think it was the street fight. I don't think it was the Survivor Series match.